Hey there, it's Alex from Forever Classic Games, and today I just want to spend a little bit of time to show you guys some footage and talk about Falcon Age on PlayStation VR. Now, I'm pretty new to PlayStation VR, we've only had it for a few months, and the games that I've really played on it are I've spent a lot of time with Rick and Morty, and I've seen a lot played of Moss. I also own Astrobot, but I haven't set aside the time to actually dig into that one. But Falcon Age came to me as something that I kind of noticed on Twitter, and there's a lot of really cool GIFs, a lot of really cute birds, and I thought, I'll just keep an eye on that one. And then one of the developers put out an open call to people wanting to check it out, and I immediately jumped on it and said, I'd like to give it a shot. So I popped in Falcon Age on the PSVR, loaded it all up, grabbed my Move controllers, and fiddled around with all the various different control schemes at my disposal. Now, in my opinion, the best way to play this game is with the headset and 2 Move controllers. But you can play with the headset and a DualShock 4, or you can just play without the headset at all with a DualShock 4. But I don't necessarily recommend that. I think that playing with just a standard DualShock 4 is not the way to go. You definitely see the blemishes of Falcon Age when playing in this method. However, playing with a headset and the 2 Move controllers feels fantastic. It's got a really great move system, and there's a lot of use of rotation in the right hand, which is really cool. You use it to select dialogue options and change the direction you'll be facing when teleporting, because there's a lot of teleporting motions in this. You can set it to smooth scaling, so you don't have to do that snap rotation that a lot of VR games utilize. It's just fun. You go through this adventure, and there's a lot of anti-establishment, taking down corporations and robots. It's all about making that stand as kind of a rebel on this alien planet. It's a very desert world, very arid. But that color, the light brown and the whites and the color of sand, that really contrasts well with the red of the outfits of most of the characters, as well as the Falcon herself. Now, the combat in this game is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of complexities. Basically, there's a bunch of different solutions to various enemy types. And so the main appeal of the combat is knowing what to do to particular enemies and situations. For example, you might come across a turret that shoots at your Falcon, and that does massive amounts of damage to the Falcon. So you gotta be able to get over there and shut down that turret. But at the same time, you might have a flying robot that you need the Falcon to pull down to the player's level. That way you can smack up their weak spot. And again, the combat isn't super complicated. There's a couple different tools that you have. You have this baton that's also a whip that you can use to grab things, pull things towards you. It's pretty snappy, really quick. And once I found out that there's a button to just put the thing in your hand rather than reaching for the belt, as I had been throughout most of the game, it felt a lot quicker. And once you get into the rhythm of it, moving around feels really natural. Now, when it comes to VR sickness, again, I'm not playing a lot of VR games. I could play this title for a couple hours at a time. I've been told that it lasts to about 5 or 6 hours, but a lot of my time was just kind of spent enjoying the world and exploring. Even though there's not a whole lot of stuff to find, there's a lot of little cosmetic items that you can pick up or purchase at the various shops. And that was really fun to go and find all these various options for my Falcon, whether it's an attack upgrade or a nice hat or a monocle or something. And really one of the first brilliant things that Falcon Age does is you start the game with a baby Falcon that looks more like an owl to me. And this thing is just adorable, she's super precious. But whenever there's a time skip and the Falcon grows up, they actually give you an option to immediately turn your Falcon back into a child. And you can play the entire game with the baby Falcon. It doesn't actually affect your gameplay experience to have a smaller Falcon versus the bigger one. At least not that I'm aware of. And that's really fun. You can have the more serious looking Falcon that's also very cute, or you can have the little guy, and it's just simply precious. Now, storytelling in this game is all kind of done through character dialogue and situational stories. Oftentimes you'll run into a character and go through some very simple dialogue wheels and options. And it seems like most of the choices kind of lead to the same place. I haven't really experimented with all the various language options available, but it feels really nice to be able to select those by rotating the motion controller. So that felt really nice and kept me engaged in the conversation, even though in reality, I was just standing there staring at a character. Now, as far as tracking goes, you run into the similar issues that you might on any PlayStation 4. You really got to make sure the space that's available, that's visible to your camera, is really open. That way when you go to move your arms in various directions or stoop down fairly low, you don't lose track of those colored balls on the tip of the controllers. And even in a space that I'm playing in, which is a fairly open space, there was a couple times where that tracking was lost and definitely made things feel a little more awkward than they should. And that's kind of the drawback of the system on its own. I really hope to see something a bit more advanced for the PlayStation 5 upgrade, which we'll inevitably get, I'm sure. And I don't think this issue would be as noticeable as, say, on the Oculus Rift or the HTC Vive. And so I hope to see Falcon Age kind of evolve from its current form, maybe get some graphical upgrades and a little bit more clarity, because of course on PlayStation VR, everything's just a little fuzzier than maybe most VR players are used to, especially if you've spent a lot of time on those PC platforms. However, I've always found the software more engaging on the PlayStation, and it's a little more user-friendly because you just hook it into your console you're already familiar with, likely, and just pick it up and go. There's a lot of different free demos you can play and things like that. So even though I'm having a really good time with Falcon Age, the game isn't perfect. By no means. There's definitely some visual fidelity that could be added to it. The combat could be a little bit more complex and engaging. At the end of the day, it does kind of boil down to opening up a weak point and slapping it around with a baton, which works in this particular title because the Falcon is so engaging. But I think at the end of the day, this is really worth the money that they're asking for it. $20 for a falconeering experience in VR, I think is worth it. So if you're interested in this, you can find it on the PlayStation Store, and if you'd like a full review of the game, we do have that available at foreverclassicgames.com. That website still is kind of under construction. It is a Squarespace site, so there's a lot of things that we're trying to figure out, as most of us are more familiar with WordPress. So we're learning. The site is looking better and better all the time. We also have a Discord, which you can find in the description below. And if you want to hear my voice some more, you can always check out the Forever Classic podcast on various podcast applications. So until next time, I think Falcon Age is worth the $20. Give it a shot if you're into VR gaming. And as always, stay cool.